Hi everybody, welcome to the Mild Rumpus, coming at you live from the House of Flimsy, aka my one-bedroom apartment in New York City that is filled with books and noise. It's Tuesday, which means that it's time to do a tag. This tag is the Favorite People tag, and it was created by Gareth over at Books, Songs, and Other Magic. I was tagged by two people, Troy and Alex, so thank you very much. I will link all three profiles in the description box below. Be sure to visit them and check them out. I have to be honest with you, I really struggled with this video. I am a Gemini. You can't ask me to name my one favorite of anything. And you know, we start off with a really easy question for booktubers especially. Number one, who's your favorite author? I went with someone who I feel like doesn't get enough love and recognition. He is a brilliant writer and so underrated. Often compared to Stephen King, my favorite author is Robert R. McCammon. This is Swan Song, which is oftentimes compared to The Stand, and in my opinion, his best book ever. This was the white whale of my collection for the longest time, and I finally got a copy. It's just being turned into a mini-series, and I hope to God they don't mess it up because I've been dreaming of that happening for years. Robert McCammon is a really prolific writer. He started off in horror, and I think that he felt like he had done everything that he could possibly do well in that genre. And so now he's made the transition to historical fiction. There's a coming of age story called Boy's Life that's also just an incredible book, often banned. He's one of the people who fights the book bans. You can see him fighting, you know, the school board meetings on YouTube. He's just an amazing author. And again, I want as many people out there to read his books. He is brilliant. So do yourself a favor, pick up Swan Song, pick up Boy's Life. What other books would I recommend by him? They Thirst. He's just, you can't go wrong, okay? Trust me. Number two, favorite comedy actor or comedian? Well, I want to shout out Bridget Everett. She hasn't written a book yet, so I couldn't pick her. But she's probably the person who makes me laugh harder than anyone on this planet. I love Bridget Everett. But this person has written a book. She's written a couple. Amy Sedaris, I Like You. Hospitality Under the Influence. It's basically a collection of recipes and crafting and tips on throwing parties. She's a nut. She's also the sister of David Sedaris. You may have seen her on television. She had her series on Comedy Central, Strangers with Candy. And the latest project is At Home with Amy Sedaris, which is sort of like the TV version of this book. She also has another one that's called, I don't remember. Sorry. I cannot tell you how many copies of this book I have bought and given to friends. It's hysterical. Oh, and you know, I just remembered something. It also comes with a centerfold. Number three, favorite dramatic serious actor or actress? For this one, I went with someone who does both comedy and drama. I just love her presence on screen. I don't think there's really anyone quite like her. She's very unique, very eccentric. She's gonna be on the new season of White Lotus, so I think she's really gonna have a big moment next year. She's the indie queen. You gotta love her. She's one of the coolest chicks you'll ever meet. Parker Posey, give it up. Give it up. It's the day of the show, y'all. Number four, favorite political figure. Oh, hell no. I'm not gonna get flamed in the comments. I'm going with Leslie Knope from Parks and Recreation, played by Amy Poehler. Number five, favorite film writer or director. I'm gonna do one for both. So my favorite writer of film is the Pope of Trash, Mr. John Waters. Love John Waters. I have all of his books. I'm one of the few people on planet Earth who can say that I have seen every single film that this man has made. Even Eat Your Makeup. I've seen them all. I've gone to his one-man shows. He's just one of a kind. And speaking of people who are one of a kind, my favorite film director of all time, David Lynch. Number six, favorite new discovery. Okay, this one's gonna be a bit of a stretch, but work with me, okay? So prior to moving to New York, I was familiar with this cabaret duo called Kiki and Herb. In real life, their names are Kenny Melman and Justin Vivian Bond, but they play these characters called Kiki and Herb. Herb's the pianist and Kiki is the cabaret singer. And the story goes they're eternal beings, they cannot die. Kiki is sort of this washed up cabaret star who gets progressively drunker the longer the performance goes on. And by the end of the show, there's broken glass, blood rolling on the floor. It turns very punk rock. And they do these amazing renditions of songs by like Radiohead and Kate Bush and Prince, Billie Eilish. I mean, you name it, they're amazing. And they were very successful. They put out albums, they were on Broadway, they sold out Carnegie Hall for 2 nights. And then they just kind of decided to call it quits and stop performing as Kiki and Herb for years and years and years. And so the recent discovery would be getting to know the person and the performer behind the character of Kiki, which is Justin Vivian Bond, just an incredibly talented musician, visual artist, and author. Viv has written a memoir of their life called Tango, My Childhood Backwards and in High Heels. And Viv is probably the person who I've seen perform the most times. I go practically every month to Joe's Pub. I never miss a show. I'm always there opening night because I love the stream of consciousness. Everything is very spontaneous. Fun fact, Viv has a house upstate that they call the House of Whimsy, which is where I got the idea to call my crappy apartment the House of Flimsy. The more you know. Number 7, favorite musician or singer. This is an easy one for me. I have been following this person since the 90s, and I will continue to follow them as long as they are putting out albums and hitting the stage, and that is Tori Amos. Boys for Pele is my all-time favorite album. This is the one that I would take to the desert island. This was the soundtrack to my high school years, and I apologize to my parents because I can only imagine the torture that they endured. If you're not familiar with Tori Amos, she is amazing. She was the youngest person to ever be accepted to the Peabody Institute. She was 5 years old. 5. And they kicked her out because she was rebellious. She saw value in rock and roll, and they only saw value in classical music. She would be the first to tell you that she was a minister's daughter and had a lot of fights with her father over organized religion. She was in an 80s band called Why Can't Tori Read? She was almost cast as the female lead in Howard the Duck. Luckily, that didn't happen. And then her label dropped her, and all the critics called her a bimbo, and she was destroyed. And the way that she healed is she returned to her instrument, which was the piano, and created the album Little Earthquakes, and her career took off from there. On that album, there's a song called Me and a Gun that she performs a cappella that describes her own experience with sexual assault. She founded the RAIN organization, which is the Rape and Incest National Network, a hotline that people can call and get help. She's just an incredible person. She's written 2 books. The first one is called Piece by Piece, and the second one, the most recent, is Resistance. If you're not familiar with Tori, definitely check her out. She has a bit of an acquired taste. She's often compared to Kate Bush. Her BFF, by the way, is Neil Gaiman, and they play creative tag back and forth. So once you kind of dive in, you'll start to pick up on little Easter eggs in both of their work. Number 8, biggest inspirational person. This is someone who lives, breathes, and eats art. Someone who is totally dedicated to their craft. And that person is Patti Smith, who I just absolutely adore. I go and see her perform every chance I get, which luckily is often. I think what I admire most about Patti Smith is how, against the odds, she managed to kind of carve out a life that revolves around her art. You know, her poetry, her writing, her music, her visual arts. And she always surrounded herself by other creative people, other artists, writers, thinkers, and she absorbed as much as she could, as much knowledge, and then she put that into her own work. And if you read her work, she says some really profound things, but she says it in a very simple way. Like, there's something very humble about Patti Smith and her lifestyle. Like, the fact that, you know, she doesn't live in a huge mansion, and she doesn't have all of these crazy possessions. She has these little treasures, and everything that she has and owns has some sort of story and some significance and some true meaning. Everything that she surrounds herself with tells a story and has a history. And then I just also find her relationship with her children really touching. Both kids are in her band. Jackson plays the guitar and Paris plays the keyboards. And I love watching Patty watch her children play. There's so much like pride and love that just exudes from her. And every time I've seen Patti Smith perform live, I always walk away knowing a little bit more than I did going in. She always drops some sort of like knowledge on you. And to prove to you that these are some of my favorite people, I present to you my refrigerator. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tag. It was something a little different. That's refreshing. Be sure that you feed that algorithm, do all the things. Before I let you go, I want to tag a few people so that we can learn who their favorite people are. Suey's Book Banter, and that's Suey, not Susie's. Suey's Book Banter, a web of stories. Rainer reads stuff, read and reread. Tag you or it. If you're watching this video, tag you or it. I want to hear who your favorite people are. Until next time, happy reading. Bye.